Did you know that in the history of the NHL, there have only been 10 times where teammates have each scored over 125 points in the same season? Well, if all goes right, I think we're going to add one more pair to that list. Welcome back, hockey fans. Welcome in if this is your first time to the channel. I'm Josh. This is the Hockey Flow, and today it's Saturday, September 10th, 2022, and we've got another question of the day for you. We're going to get to that in just a moment on Today in Hockey. But before we get to the Edmonton Oilers and Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, and whether or not they can reach history this season, we got to get through Today in Hockey. Oh, wait. No Today in Hockey history. Today in Hockey history, we've transitioned that to shorts. So we're going to get right into it. It's time for our question of the day. Here we go. Will Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, will they both score 125 plus points this season? With help from Jfresh Hockey, hockeyreference.com, Stathead, even Daily Faceoff, we're going to go through the history, we're going to go through last season and their previous seasons, make sure there aren't any red flags moving forward, and then we're also going to preview the Oilers a little bit, because they're my favorite team. I'm a little biased, and I'm excited for the season, but I really do think that Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, I think that they can have an excellent season this year, maybe even historic. So let's get into it. If you do enjoy the content, take a moment, like the video, subscribe to the channel, helps us out a ton. We're just getting started, but hockey season's right around the corner, and we're going to keep doing videos almost every day. Today in Hockey History every day. Want to make sure you never miss a beat. So let's get into it. All right, will Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl both score 125 plus points? Well, in order to answer the question, first we got to do a little context, right? We got to go through the history. I'm a historian. That's what my college degree's in, and I love looking at history. So if we look at the history of the NHL, here are all the instances where teammates have scored over 125 points in a single season. Like I said, it's only been done 10 times. This is not an easy feat by any means, but it's also not something that's just so rare that's just unobtainable, right? This has been done before and been done a few times. Only 6 different teams have done it, and if we're going to look at history, well, the Oilers were one of them. Now, that's thanks to Wayne Gretzky, right? We see his name dotting this list, absolutely everywhere, but this hasn't been done since 1995 and 1996 with the Pittsburgh Penguins when Jaromir Jagr and Mario Lemieux did it. So this isn't something that happens every single year or very often. Absolutely, this is a very rare thing, but the Edmonton Oilers, I think they are primed to be able to let Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl get to that mark. The team's going to have a great season. I just feel it. Everything's stacking up real nicely, but we're going to get to the Oilers in just a second. Let's finish with the history here. Wayne Gretzky, my goodness, can we just take a moment and appreciate how unreal he was? I truly don't know if there is another comparison across sports where the best player of all time was so much better. This is just, it blows my mind. Every time I pull stats, you look at the record books, no matter what it is, Wayne Gretzky's name will pop up. And we see it here. It followed him, Edmonton, and then over to the Kings as well. Bobby Orr and Paul Coffey, we got to give the D-men a shout-out here. Our defensemen representing here on the list. Bobby Orr actually did it twice with Phil Esposito back in the 70s for those Bruin teams. Absolutely unreal. And last but most certainly not least, we have to make sure we mention that Islander dynasty. We talked about them. Goodness, it was a few months ago now at this point, but that dynasty, absolutely, they earned their place in history, and they show up a couple of times in this as well. So that's the history. This isn't a super rare thing. It is, but it's not the most unrare thing, right? It's not the most unobtainable. So, can they do it? Let's look at the road so far. Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. We gave 5-year sample sizes. We went back the last 5 seasons. Big shout out to hockeyreference.com on the stats and Stathead. We're going to be using both of those through this. And big shout out, huge thank you to Jfresh Hockey on the player cards. We're looking at the big ones here. We got the extra large Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. So just looking at the stats and the player cards, first and foremost, let's get it out of the way. They both had amazing seasons last year. Leon Draisaitl finally, surpassed the value of that contract, and by quite some bit. My goodness, only $8.5 million a year on that deal, and he puts up 110 points last season. Just absolutely incredible. Now, don't get me wrong, he already hit that mark back in 1920, right? That was a fantastic season as well. Then we get COVID, and boy, he was on a torrid pace, fantastic, and then carried it into last season. So Leon Draisaitl, everything's pointing in the upward direction, right? He's trending positively. That's what we like to see. Connor McDavid, same thing. To be quite honest, this video is not really about how great Connor McDavid is. We fully expect him to be right back up there, but to get to 125 points, he's going to have to do exactly what he did last season, plus just a little bit more, right? We only see he got 123 last season, and that did lead the NHL. So both of these guys to eclipse the 125 mark, it's going to be tough, but not absolutely undoable. Oiler fans, we need to appreciate this too. Just as we were looking at Wayne Gretzky on that last list, we are living in a great time for the Edmonton Oilers. We have two absolute superstars. We are fortunate enough to sit here and have the conversation. Do we have two of the absolute best players in all of hockey? Not just two of the best players within our division or within our conference. It's within all of hockey. These are two elite superstars. But this isn't about McDavid. This is more so about Leon Draisaitl. Is he going to take it to the next level and bring it up just a little more? The goals last season, that was such a great sign, right? He had already eclipsed the 50-goal mark once in his history, but to do it again, all right, that's good. We need that consistency. And again, that COVID short season, he absolutely would have probably eclipsed that 50-goal mark, right? But the assists, that's the other area that I'm going to be looking out for, because his career high in assists is 67. He only had 55 last year. He only missed a couple of games. We know he was playing hurt, but that's going to be where I see the improvement. I think the goals, they're going to still be there. That shooting percentage held consistent and has held consistent for quite some time, but the assists, he's going to need some more assists. 55 is a great number, but to eclipse that 125, we can't expect to get 60, 70 goals. My goodness, well, maybe, right? Because the underlying shooting numbers were a little low for him on the microstats card. I was a little surprised. Shooting percentage, excellent. Top of the league right there. Not absolute top, but within that top upper echelon of the league. But that the underlying shooting numbers in the 53rd percentile for shots, 60th percentile for chances, 57th percentile off of high danger passes, 59% off of one-timers. We know that's where Leon Draisaitl makes his living, right? He's listed as a center, but to be quite honest, I think he's a right wing. I understand that he plays through the center and takes face-offs and all that, but boy, when he is on that right side of the net and just able to camp, his shot is lethal. So I was a little surprised to see the numbers a little low. So that to me tells me that maybe he can improve those numbers, right? So that 55 goals, maybe we could see that have a small uptick. Maybe he could hit 60 this year. Are we ready for that? I don't know, Oilers fans. Maybe that's a little of a pipe dream, right? But 50 goals, that would be fantastic. I would be absolutely thrilled with that. And then we could move those assist numbers up a little more. Maybe he gets up to 75 assists next season. It's all about who he's going to be playing with, and I really do think consistency is going to play a big role this season. But again, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. His passing, McDavid and Draisaitl, their passing numbers, as we can see, check out in the upper echelon of the league. McDavid in particular, look at all those 100% for his passing numbers. That's absolutely incredible. Draisaitl, same thing. We see a lot of high 90s. His lowest number in there is 88%, and that's in the high danger. That means the puck isn't necessarily finding the stick every single time in the high danger spot, but 88%, that's fantastic. That means he's better than 88% of the NHL at finding people in those high danger spots. That's fantastic. Connor McDavid, he's on the next level. But if you do want to talk about improvements, right? We talked about Leon Draisaitl, and I really want to see those assist numbers creep up. If we're going to get to 125, he needs to really have more assists. Well, what about Connor McDavid, right? What areas could he potentially improve on? Interesting to see that red in the shots category, right? We talked about it last season. The Oilers were all about Connor McDavid improving his one-timer. And at the beginning of the season, it was really neat to see that he actually did implement that and started doing it more in games. He even had a goal off of it. It was fantastic. But I really would like to see him improve that. That's something that the best of the best do, right? They find small weaknesses in their game and they improve it. And that's what Connor McDavid's doing. He's really rounding out into such an absolute amazing player. So this would be another level, right? And that would also help. Maybe he gets over the 50 goal mark this season if he can improve those shooting numbers. Absolutely. But his shooting percentage, it wasn't anything to scoff at by any means, but only 14% last season. So if he could bring that back up a little bit, we see 17, his career high. Maybe McDavid slots in some more goals as well. But their passing numbers, their shooting numbers are great. But who are they going to be passing the puck to? Now it's time. We need to look at the Edmonton Oilers team as a whole and see what have they done to improve, or what have they done to supplement the talent around Draisaitl and McDavid. All right, so let's look at the key additions and subtractions first. Out, Mike Smith, Zach Kassian, Duncan Keith, Josh Archibald. To be honest, we didn't really lose too much, right? Mike Smith, great player, great goalie, but man, he gave me a heart attack. It felt like every single game. That goal in the postseason, we could point fingers all we want, but Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid were both very supportive. That team was very supportive and had Mike Smith's back. Zach Kassian, I am so happy he is not on the Oilers anymore. I'm sure he's a great person, but boy, his hockey talent at this point is more so the grinder. And I know we wanted to surround McDavid with physical talent, and we want people to stay away from him, and I get it, but we found that person, and that's Evander Kane. Ever since Evander Kane got here last season, our first line has been humming. He had an incredible season. Connor McDavid had an incredible season. Zach Hyman played great. I will be perfectly content if that is our first line moving into the season and throughout the entire season. Number 2 leads us to Leon Draisaitl as the second line centerman. I love that, and I do think that consistency this season will be key for the Oilers. Head coach, he's there, right? We don't have any uncertainty there. We're not calling for him to be fired. We're not asking Ken Holland to make a ton of moves. We have the consistency that we want at the top, and it runs throughout the entire team. The team is going to have their own roles. If everyone can do their part, this team is just going to absolutely be firing on all cylinders. But Leon Draisaitl, he's going to be right along with that. He made his money on the power play. The Oilers' power play to start the season last year was absolutely incredible. If we can get anywhere near back to that level this coming season, I absolutely think Leon Draisaitl's numbers are going to continue to rise. Connor McDavid's going to continue to do what he does and be right there. We also lost Duncan Keith and Josh Archibald. On the defensive side, Duncan Keith, he's past his prime, right? It was time. And Josh Archibald, I was a big fan. I know some Oilers fans were not, but I was a big fan. I think he did bring something to the team, but he never really did put it all together, right? Bringing it back to who's coming in, though. Jack Campbell. We brought Soupy in to shore up the Tendy spot, and I'm pumped. I think he is really going to have an impact. And then we also did bring in Matthias Janmark from Vegas to shore up. Looks like Daily Faceoff has him in the fourth line right now, but I could see him slot in the third line as well, but probably will be that fourth line, that grinder line, absolutely. So let's look at the talking points. The Oilers had a great season last year. I am not going to complain one bit. Losing in the playoffs to the eventual Stanley Cup champions is nothing to be upset about. But the gang is back. That's the biggest takeaway. We didn't make wholesale changes. I'm so happy we didn't. Puljujärvi's back. Yamamoto's back. Evander Kane, feel how you may about the man. He had an excellent season and brings a different dynamic to this team. I'm happy that he is back. The consistency, we talked about it already. We're not going to beat a dead horse here. There are a lot of players who can score goals. That is the big thing that I think is going to stand out for this team. If everyone knows their role, knows what they're responsible for, we're not worried about shifting things, then folks can just worry about doing their jobs, and there is a lot of talent on this team. Look at top to bottom. That third line in particular, Ryan McLeod, Jesse Puljujärvi, even Warren Foegele put in some goals last season, but if Jesse Puljujärvi can find his shot, put it all together, the analytics darling, he could really have a great season, and Ryan McLeod really started to put it together last season. His speed and his skating ability is something that this team really needs, so I'm absolutely happy that we've got him back as well. And then that fourth line, they're going to do the dirty work for us. Derek Ryan, Devin Shore, they had some decent moments for us last season, some neat little goals, and Matthias Janmark, I think he's going to fit in nicely. The defenders too, we've got some defensemen that can score. Darnell Nurse had a low-key decent season analytically. I know a lot of his mistakes were tough to watch, and Oilers fans are probably throwing stuff at the TV at times, but overall, I think he's an excellent defender, and I'm a big fan of his game, and he's going to bring the offensive side of it too occasionally. Evan Bouchard, offensively, started to find his shot, gave him some more time on the power play last season. Hey, who knows? Maybe even Tyson Barrie finds his offensive skill again. I know I was a big proponent of getting rid of him this offseason, but if he can find his offensive touch, he's just a couple seasons removed from being one of the best offensive defenders in the league. And then the young lad, Philip Broberg. So we can't talk about the team team without talking about the youth. I really wish Dylan Holloway was on this daily face-off thing. Big shout out to them, but I think Dylan Holloway is going to have a big season and going to have a big impact for this Oiler team. He's got a lot of talent. He's fun to watch. Man, what he did for the Condors last season, he really did some neat things. But Philip Broberg is another young talent that I think is going to really shine this season. I think he's going to start turning the corner. They just have to give him the opportunities, right? I think that's the big thing. Dylan Holloway, we were calling for it in the postseason. Same thing here. I really just want him to get ice time, get acclimated to the NHL, and start showing that he can make this impact. Will Soupy have an impact also? I actually do think that shoring up the Tendy spot for the Oilers will allow Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid to continue to flourish and to take some pressure off of them, right? If they're not worried about coming down from 3 goals each game, if they can just go out there and have fun and know that Soupy's got it in net, they can go out there and put up big numbers. So we've looked at the Oilers season, we looked at the history, we looked at Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in particular. So do I think that both Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid are going to score over 125 points this season? You bet your butt I do. Yes, the Oilers are deep. We're primed for a good season. And Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl aren't going to have to worry about coming from behind all the time. Our team stayed pretty much consistently the same. Our additions were essentially additions by not losing people. We brought Evander Kane in. Zach Hyman had a great season. I fully expect them to continue to progress and have big seasons as well. And Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, they're going to make it to history, join those 10 other times that this has happened. They're going to make it number 11. Still going to only be 6 teams, though. Edmonton Oilers, absolutely. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. I love talking with you guys. It's always so much fun. Do you think they're going to have big seasons and each score 125-plus points? Let me know. And be sure to hit the like button if you do enjoy the content. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't. I really do appreciate you guys. Until later, cheers!